Welcome to this explainer, everyone! Today, we're diving into a truly remarkable story. We're looking at a piece of source material that documents this profound journey of deep resilience, incredible struggle, and ultimate triumph. Honestly, this isn't just your standard biography. It's an absolute blueprint for how someone can hit rock bottom and then completely rewrite their destiny through sheer willpower. So I want you to really think about this for a second. What actually happens when your entire world just turns its back on you? We've all had those moments, right? Where we felt unsupported or maybe misunderstood by a friend or a colleague. But imagine a scenario where literally every single safety net you have, your partner, your family, your community, just evaporates overnight. How do you even survive that kind of extreme isolation? Well, this is a central question our source material forces us to confront today, looking through the life of a young woman named Emily. Just think about the stark contrast here. On one hand, at her absolute lowest point, our protagonist has zero money for rent, she's actively struggling to afford basic food, and she's been completely abandoned by her family. But then, fast forward, and she's this highly celebrated owner of a multi-million-dollar agency, being praised by the exact same society that shunned her. It's a massive gap, isn't it? Like, how on earth did she get from such a devastating low to such an incredible high? Let's break it down. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Section 1, the start of a big dream, focusing on Emily's early life. So our source text introduces us to Emily Johnson. She is living in the vibrant city of Chicago, and she's a university student studying business management. The text makes it crystal clear, right from the get-go, that Emily was not just, going through the motions. She was incredibly bright, highly ambitious, and she had this massive, very clear dream of becoming a successful businesswoman. She had a solid plan, and her life was entirely on track. And what's really interesting here is how perfectly normal the next step in her life seemed. While at university, she meets a young man named Jack Anderson in one of her classes. The source details how this started as just your standard classroom acquaintance, but it blossomed into a deep friendship and eventually a strong romantic relationship. And Emily's trust wasn't blind here. It was built over time, firmly cemented by Jack's explicit promises that he loved her deeply and that they'd eventually get married. But then things shift. Section 2, Betrayal and Isolation, a sudden turn. The real inciting incident in this source material is an unexpected pregnancy. And as you can probably imagine, this completely changes everything for Emily. When she bravely shares the news with Jack, the text notes this really interesting and honestly tragic shift. Jack's initial reaction, it was actually supportive. But very quickly, that support just evaporates. He starts dodging her calls. He completely avoids meeting her. All that warmth and those promises of marriage are abruptly replaced by this cold, devastating silence. Listen to the exact words he used. He said, "Emily, I am not ready for this responsibility. I want to live my own life." Wow. This is the precise moment she was completely abandoned. The person who promised her a future looked right at her and just severed ties. With those exact words, he walked out of her life forever. So Emily is now reeling from this massive heartbreak. But, you'd think she at least has her parents to fall back on, right? Unfortunately, the tragedy compounds. When her parents find out the news, they don't offer a safety net. Instead, driven by immense pressure from society and relatives, they become deeply angry. To protect their own social standing, they completely distance themselves from their daughter. In an instant, Emily is entirely and profoundly alone. Which brings us to Section 3, the hard days of struggle, fighting for future. Her journey back began from this place of total abandonment. And this is where the sheer grit of our protagonist is really put on display. She made a definitive choice to fight for her child and for her future. This led to exhausting day shifts, working at a local coffee shop just to scrape by. Then, after those grueling shifts, she transitioned straight into late-night studying. She absolutely refused to drop out. And finally, as the culmination of this brutal routine, she actually achieved her university graduation. I really want to make sure we don't just gloss over that progression because the reality behind it was incredibly brutal. The source material highlights the massive mental and physical toll of this period. Emily faced severe financial struggles. We're talking about days where she literally lacked the money to pay her rent, and times when she had to aggressively struggle just to secure basic food to eat. Imagine trying to study for university exams while hungry and terrified of eviction. Yet, somehow she persisted. Now let's look at the turnaround. Section 4, New Heights of Success, the Grand Comeback. So, how exactly did she climb out of that abyss? Well, it wasn't magic, it was highly methodical. Step one, her first move was securing that degree. Step two, she didn't just jump straight to the top. She took a job at a small digital marketing firm. She used this time to constantly learn and improve her skills. And finally, step three, armed with all that knowledge and experience, she took the massive risk of founding her very own marketing agency. Now, initially, the agency saw very little work, but her reputation was built on three distinct pillars: hard work, honesty, and continuous learning. It wasn't some overnight viral success. It was the slow, steady compounding of these three specific traits that gradually earned her clients' trust and really expanded her business. And that compounding effort, it led to an absolutely astronomical result, a multi-million-dollar valuation. Her agency became recognized as one of the most successful companies in America. But here's the profound irony highlighted in the source material. Suddenly, Emily's success story was everywhere. It was the topic of newspaper articles, TV reports, and viral social media posts. The exact same society, the exact same people who had previously shunned her and considered her weak, were now publicly praising her success. This leads to our final part, Section 5, the biggest lesson: emotional resolution. Years later, seeing the incredible woman she had become, her parents finally realized the gravity of their mistake. They came to meet her, offering their apologies and expressing just how proud they were. And Emily's reaction here is a masterclass in emotional intelligence. She didn't turn them away. She forgave them. The text specifically notes her reasoning. She knew that holding on to hate only prevents a person from moving forward in their own life. She chose peace over vindication, and today she lives a happy, highly respected life with her child. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with the exact moral thesis presented at the very end of the source material. Never let one mistake in your life become your entire identity. Emily proved that no matter how dire the circumstances, self-belief and relentless hard work can literally rewrite your destiny. So I leave you with this final thought. What past mistake are you currently allowing to define you, and what steps will you take today to rewrite your own story?